Chair, my objection on this is that I want to assure you that there are so many, very many struggling companies outside there, including for members of parliament. There are also companies that are struggling seriously, and they have written several times to URA for tax waivers. The moment we accept this, it is going to set a very bad precedence, very bad one. How many companies will come on board thinking for tax waivers? And back to my colleague, what she has said, the criteria that was used, the honorable minister submitted by saying that they only go through those ones that have accepted to go through vigorous assessments, checks. But there are so many that I know, given time, I can also submit proof. Very many companies that have applied, but they have never been considered even to go for audit and other things. They have waited for the last 2 years. So this is going to be, for me, I object on this. It's going to set a very bad precedence in terms of
members. I would like to guide that let us not be biased. We have only just a minutes ago agreed that we should discuss what is tabled on the floor of Parliament. And secondly, we can only bring it to notice of URA, the concerns, what he's saying, the concerns out there, so that we're able to review, which might not be part of this meeting, to review your processes of analyzing, engaging, and bringing forward people who should be benefiting from tax waivers. But that cannot hinder the process of discussing what is before us. And I think we are very clear about that.
The first ground that this liability arose from estimated assessment. Now, just estimated. We are not talking about having audited, but estimated assessment. Now, when you look at the figures that are provided, since the company was established, particularly this Makerere Business Institute, which has been, from 1995 to 2000, that is 25 years, it had actually remitted taxes of 66 millions, or in over 25. That is about 2.6 millions a year. But now, just in the space of COVID, for it to have accumulated a tax of 230 million.
Yes, information.
The total tax liability for this company over the years, the cumulative amount is 239,306,340. This is the liability which has accumulated over the years. As per the assessment, yes.
Members,
Yes,
are you...
Now, out of this liability, this institute has been struggling to pay. Before COVID, it had paid 66. Now, after COVID, because of the drop in income as a result of the number of students going down, it has been able to only settle 28. So as a result of that, it has told us, you people, here I am, I have failed to pay. Leave me, so that I start on a fresh
The Minister of Finance came up with the names of 7 companies seeking for tax exemption. Majority of them seeking exemption on pay, VAT, and corporate tax. But the committee requested Uganda Revenue Authority to come up with detailed list with the file of each of those customers from the time when they were established and about the tax discipline which they have been having, whether they have been consistently paying taxes or they have been poor at paying taxes, because what we see, for example, is the company is assessed to pay a tax of 260 million, pays only 28 million. Some are paying only 66 million. So the question is, were those tax arrears accumulated out of penalties, out of interest, out of administrative tax assessment, which were not realized in real income. So we want to do a lot of analysis for us to come to a conclusion. The minister had presented 3 companies before Parliament, but now they came today with 7 names, which means additional 4 names were added, and we are saying we cannot process beyond the 3 names that were presented to the Speaker. So if it's required, they need to go and make another presentation of those 4 names before Parliament, then as the Committee of Finance will process. So the key issue is there are so many companies in Uganda that is struggling with tax issues. They have tax arrears. Now we have seen only 7 names that are being presented to Parliament for consideration. And we need to look at the criteria for selection and justification for those tax waivers in an environment where the tax revenue is actually very low. So we are looking at that. But however, we are also cognizant of the fact that if, since the economy is bad, maybe there's a tax burden, can we consider those companies for the purposes of them to kind of re-energize and be in a much better financial position so that they can pay future taxes?
I think we are dealing with this exemption and waivers across the board. It's a policy we must question. One, the 3 companies that have come up are seeking waivers on 3 taxable indices. 1, on corporate tax. 2, on pay as you earn. The other one is on VAT. The question is, how on earth do you, if you were going concern, and corporate tax is a profit tax, you make a profit, and then you say, exempt me because I'm not doing well. How did you make that profit? The other day, by the way, we passed a law to tax losses. That company that chronically report losses should also be taxed. We passed that law in Parliament. But now we are passing exemption on people who are making profit. What an irony. The other thing is, the taxable items, it is on corporate tax and pay as you earn. Pay as you earn is the money you deduct from a salary of a worker. Still, it's not your money. It is someone you pay. The other one is VAT. VAT is paid by a consumer. It's a mark-off tax, mark-off from a price of an item, from a cost. Therefore, there is no way company can seek VAT, corporate, pay as you earn, and then people of Uganda must know, when you exempt those taxes from agencies, Ministry of Finance is required to match up and pay. I have a file which had come with, where the Ministry of Finance has now tax areas for the year 2022-23 of over 800 billion, near $1 trillion. Trying to find money to match up what has been forgotten. And they're saying 1 trillion is a game changer in a parish development model. But here you are, exempting 800 billion, and you don't pay. 2, government must also get a backbone. 1, we want a rationale. Why the 3 only? Or why the 7? For example, these are the E and G of Mubiru, which they have picked. This guy has just been arrested in Dubai. It is one of the companies. He's the director. He's being paraded. He's an owner with contracts in defense and everywhere. So these are guys who are coming that they shouldn't pay tax. Indirectly, they're saying, you, the working, struggling Ugandans, okay, you pay for these companies to go ahead. But it's also natural for businesses that are poorly run and incompetent. They should be given a chance to collapse. It is good economics. Eventually, it is too expensive to sustain companies that are loss-making permanently. So Companies that are seeking permanent residency on tax exemption lists must be lifted, and if they cannot run, the people of Uganda have no obligation to maintain and sustain incompetent and poorly run companies. It's in life. Babies die, children die. We like them so much, but they die. So even companies that cannot be professionally run and sustainably run should be given a decent burial and stop seeking all manner of exemption in taxes, whether foreign or local.
And as the chairperson of the Finance, Planning and Community Development Committee, today we had a commitment to discuss the tax waivers that were tabled on the floor of Parliament. And these tax waivers included 3 entities, 2 institutions, learning institutions, and 1 construction company that works with the Ministry of Defense. And the 2 institutions are Makerere Business Institute, whose request for waiver amounts to 239 million Uganda shillings, and Nkumba University, whose obligation totals to 4.479 billion Uganda shillings, and the other construction company that I shared with you, J2E J2E Investment Corporation, which has an obligation of 2.7. And our role today was to discuss those 3. But also we were informed that the office of the Speaker received more than 3, though only 3 were laid and talked about during plenary that sat on the 15th of this month. And having said that, we guided that we're only going to discuss about the 3, and the others, which the minister had come with totaling to 7, the balance of the 4 can be presented afresh separately to avoid faulting on procedure. And when we add the obligation that we have to waive for the 7, it comes to about 13.3 billion Uganda shillings. And of course, we know what the law talks about. So that is the discussion we want to engage with. So we ended the meeting requesting that we have a detailed report or file for each from the Revenue Authority showing justification. And therefore, we hope they are going to come with these details and we have a discussion.
As the Finance Committee, we've been engaging with the Ministry of Finance and Uganda Revenue Authority concerning some tax exemptions that were brought before the Committee of Finance. During the session in Parliament, we had 3 entities or 3 companies that the Ministry of Finance came to seek approval of Parliament to exempt from taxes, but unfortunately the Minister has come with 7, and as a committee we were stuck as to why the Minister has brought 7 entities aside from the 3 that we were expecting as a committee. And we've advised the Minister to go back and officially lay these documents on the floor of Parliament before we can proceed with the other 4 entities. So we have only looked at 3, but again, the 3 entities we've looked at, when you look at the justifications for these exemptions, they do not make sense, because we are looking at one of the contractors like J2E, who has been doing work for government and has always been paid, and they want an exemption on VAT. VAT, which tax we know that this institution is more of a collector, because this is 18% on the goods and services that they have done for government, and government has been paying them a fee inclusive of this tax. So why do they want an exemption right now? And as a committee, we believe some of these cannot be justified. Then we've seen an individual like Donasi Kananura, who wants an exemption on rental tax, an exemption of income tax, but they have been making money, and the justification is that this individual is sick and is suffering from diabetes and cannot pay their taxes. But many Ugandans are sick and many Ugandans are facing similar challenges. So What is so special about this individual that government wants to exempt over 3 billion shillings in taxes?